Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Uh, Sorry I always sound so crusty. It's my medicine that I've been taking, and anyway, sorry about that. I'll get that sounding better someday. I will. I need to get some Paul Brewster. Get my throat a little higher where I can sound better. Right now, I could sing bass with anybody, but good to have you on the show. It's Thursday night, and always fun to get to have you guys here. We got a really good one tonight. One of my favorite people in the world, and a hero of mine since I was young, a kid. Alan Munde, great banjo player. He's going to be here tonight with us, and I think he lives in Texas, back in Texas now. So anyway, hopefully he'll be on time. He should, but you'll enjoy getting to meet Alan and getting to know more about him. He's awesome. Hello, Debbie Jones. Glad to have you on listening in tonight. Debbie's a regular, and she's here quick tonight. So you're the first one on, Debbie. Good to have you. Been a busy week here for me. I mean, not busy in the working line, I guess, but hospital visits, doctor's appointments, more cancer. It's came back, but we got knocked out pretty quick. So anyway, I found I had cancer again, another kind. Lasted about a week. We got on top of it and got it gone. So anyway, now I'm just dealing with one cancer, which is Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that's good. It's a lot easier to fight one than it is two of those. So anyway, makes me happy to get to be here tonight and know things are good with me, and know I've had a day off and I've got another day off, and me and the wife, we're going to actually get out tomorrow early. I don't know what early is for us. It used to be a lot earlier when before the pandemic, but we're going to get up early and hit some yard sales tomorrow. And we like to do that kind of crazy stuff, and I think everybody does. We're just out of room, so my next show I may be giving away a whole bunch of stuff. It won't be mine, but we're giving a whole bunch of women's stuff away, our things for the house. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably ended up in Pigeon Forge, which we're so blessed to be able to just go for a car drive and end up in Pigeon Forge or the Great Smoky Mountains. It's really a good deal. We're really blessed. And I see my buddy Barney Rogers is on tonight. Barney, I was listening in the car to our All Stars album, and Better Be Ready, the tune that you wrote. Man, that's a really good song. I hadn't heard it in a while, and I give it 2 or 3 plays back to back. Really good stuff. And glad to have you on, buddy. Lynn Lawson Skaggs, always on. Always glad to have you. And glad you're here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And my buddy Betty Edmondson said, good to see you, Phil. We love yard sales too. Enjoy your day. Yep, they're fun. And I mean, Debbie, I tell you, or Betty, I mentioned we went to school together at the old Gibbs High School. And Gibbs is just a little bitty school, but we've had Kenny Chesney came through there as a student, and my brain slips really hard, but Trevor Bain, youngest guy ever to win the Daytona 500, he's from Gibbs. So we got a couple of really good ones there. Ashley Monroe, great songwriter, she's from Gibbs. That's 3 really great talents to come out of such a small school. Never had anybody really come out much in sports, but seems like the singers really do good there. So anyway, Betty, glad to have you on tonight. And Lynn Lawson, how's your eye? We'll talk about that. of you folks know that I've had a corneal transplant a couple of times, and this time it's working because I can see a fog, so I know it's working. But I had my last corneal transplant was in June, so I went in the other day, and it was time to get sutures taken out. So my doctor, man, he's so good. Musician too. He's just incredible. Name's David Harris. And I went in. He took 16 stitches out of my eyeball. So right around, yeah, that eye, that left eye, right around the color part, had 16 stitches. He took them out, and I asked him to look at them, and you'd about need a microscope. He's so good, and he thinks one more procedure, and I'll get my vision back. So it'd be good to see the left side of my dobro, to be able to see the neck, and it'll be good to be able to see the people driving in the left lane again. So it's got its perks. But appreciate you asking about that, Lynn. I'm doing good. I think it's going to be one of my good things on the way back. So anyway, just putting out fires one at a time. That's what I've been doing for a few years now, and not worrying about it very much. Just dealing with it as it comes, and not making a big deal. I don't worry about it anymore. I just live day to day. So glad you mentioned that. And Don Cucci, I think that's right, or Couchy, said, "Hi Phil, looking forward to the show tonight. It's going to be a good one." Alan's one guy that I know pretty well, so it's going to be fun, and we're going to have back-to-back Allens. Next week, I'm going to have my good buddy, Alan Bobby, who worked with me in Grasstown in our band, and he still has Grasstown, and he was part of the new Quicksilver, and he's still going on with Grasstown, just doing an awesome job with that. So glad to have him on the show next week. He's a two-time this year and past year IBMA Mandolin Player of the Year, and well deserving of that. So Alan will be on next week. The other Alan, not this Alan. It's Alan Munde tonight, Alan Bobby next week. And both these guys have strange names. Alan Munde's name is spelled Munde. And I've had people all my life call him Alan Mund, and it's not. It's Monday. It's pronounced like the day, Monday. Alan Bobby. Everybody call him Alan Bibby, or other names, but his name's Bobby, and I know that for sure because we were in a band together, and I wrote him a lot of checks, and he wrote me a lot of checks. So it's Alan Bobby, and he'll be here next week. You'll enjoy him. He's a really, really good guy, and I've known him so long, and I'll tell you what, he's one of the top mandolin players in the whole world. I mean, I put him in the top 3. He's incredible. But anyway, speaking of names like that, Don Cucci, I think that's what he said, that I got his name right. I hope I pronounced it right. But anyway, it's going to be a good night tonight. We're going to ask Alan a lot of questions about stuff, and we're going to just talk a lot. I hope that's okay for you guys. I mean, sometimes my show is something more like sitting down around the table and talking a little bit. Sometimes I even forget you guys are tuned in, and I don't mean to do that, but sometimes it just happens that way, and I think it makes a better interview when you're just talking and you kind of feel like it's one to one. So we're going to try to do that tonight, like always. And my good buddy, Mike Elliott. Mike's a great dobro player, and he's got one of my dobros, and he's a really dear friend of mine. Glad to have you in tonight, Mike. We're going to have to get some more dobro players in here pretty soon. especially with the new Dobro album coming out. Have I mentioned that before? Yeah, well, I mentioned it again. It's going to be out on Mountain Home. It's called the Masters of Slide, the Spider Sessions, and we got some great players on there. 20, I think we have 25 players. 20, I think that's right. Don't hold it against me if we got 24, but I think it's 25. Got some great ones. You'll be surprised when you hear it all. It's just really, really good. So anyway, doing that little bit of advertisement right there too. We'll have that on as soon as those get available. I will worry you heavily about those, and probably be getting some shirts, and I'll be worrying you heavy about those too. So just the way us bluegrass peoples do from working record tables for so long. We're salesmen, but I never was a good salesman. I didn't. Well, I don't know. Maybe I was. I've sold instruments pretty well, and a few other things. But it makes it easier when you know the people buying from you. But it also makes it hard because you want to give them one, and they cost. CDs cost, and can't give them all away. But I try. I try to take care of some of my buddies when I can, especially ones that have been so good to me musically and stuff. Because us musicians, we're all broke right now because of the COVID, and I've enjoyed being broke this summer because it's been good to be able to do my own thing and make plans for the future and back to my health to be able to stay on top of that. It's been good. So my buddy Penny Spires just signed on, and Penny Spires Glandon, and I knew her as Penny Spires in school, and she says, "Love you, feel that better," and I love you too, Penny. Penny was a good friend in high school and junior high, and a good friend now. So always good to have all these folks. I mean, it's as good for me as it is you guys to have people in. I always kind of make this just like a back porch thing where we're just sitting and talking, and eventually I'm going to be making some set changes, maybe go outside for the summer. But we have these cicadas here, which a lot of folks do, so it may be too loud. So we'll figure it out. If this backdrop don't bother you for a while, I'll figure something out for it. But anyway, I'm not scratching fleas or nothing. I'm actually straightening a microphone cord that goes up through my shirt and ends on my other left. I'm not used to doing this reverse stuff. See, look at it. Okay, there you go. Normally if I point, I do this and way over there. But anyway, you guys are here to hear from Alan Munde tonight. And I hope you guys are having a great day. It's going to get better as soon as he calls in here with us. We'll tell you a little bit about him. Alan's, I'll tell you how old he is before he gets on. Alan's 75. I think right now, are getting ready to be 75. 74, I'll give him that. But the guy's like he's 20 years old. He's so cool, plays so good, so creative. And I've got to go to Germany with him. I think we've been 3 times. And every time I would get up in the morning or what, I'd be sitting down having my German food. I don't know the name for most of it. I do know a lot of fruit. So I would be sitting over there eating, and here would come Alan Munde in, and it just made the whole day good because, he's such a good guy, and you guys are going to enjoy the interview with him tonight, I know. He's played with a lot of bands. We're going to talk about some of those. He played with Jimmy Martin. Flying Burrito Brothers is another band, and he's mainly had a band for a while called Country Gazette, And if you've looked on my page, I've posted some of their videos, a couple of videos on there. So anyway, this is our guy right here. Yep. Is this a scammer or is this Alan? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, I had turned you up.
Oh,
I thought you was a scammer. How you doing? How you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing real well. Doing fine. Thanks for asking.
Good. I'm glad to have you on here tonight. I've had a lot of people that really look forward to this. When they heard you were going to be on, they got excited about that, and you know, you got a lot of fans out there, and that's a good thing about the internet nowadays. We can just hook up, and you're in Texas, right? Texas or Oklahoma now,
Well, I have been. I lived in. I'm from Oklahoma originally.
right?
Lived in Texas for many, many years. But my wife is from Springfield, Missouri, and she
Oh,
retired and wanted to move back to Springfield. So we're in Springfield, Missouri right now.
I didn't know that. Well, that's cool. You're a little
Yeah,
you're a little closer into Nashville, but probably
yeah.
not a lot, but some. You
Oh,
know,
actually, quite a bit. Actually, quite a bit. We were down between Austin and San Antonio, and it takes forever just to get out of Texas.
oh gosh, yeah. It. I remember getting up in the morning when I was playing somewhere in Texas, and you get up, you'd want to hit the road pretty early and get a jump, and we get up maybe 6 o'clock and eat, get in the car, and we'd be driving all day and all day and all day, and we would say, "Where are we at right now?" And they would say, "Well, we're almost to Dallas," and it was like, "Oh gosh, we've not even got halfway across Texas," and it's a big old state, and
Right, right.
you know,
Well, yeah. Well, when I was with Country Gazette, had a friend wrote us a song, and we recorded it. It's called "You Can't Get the Hell Out of Texas." And
is
so,
is that an instrumental? I know I've heard that. Love
no,
that
no, it's
title.
got a vocal to it.
I knew I'd seen that name before because I've got several of you guys' albums. Uh,
Right,
Probably the first album I ever picked up of the Country Gazette was one that I bought at a festival. I had like $10 on me to run me a couple of days back then, but albums were like $5, and I bought Out to Lunch, that album.
right, sure.
That was a really good album to me. Roland White and well, you and Roland White, and I'm trying to remember who was in the band then. Can you tell me?
Right, right. It was that record would have been Roland White, Roger Bush on bass,
Yeah,
and Kenny Wertz on guitar.
that's right. That's right. I knew Kenny Wertz, but I just couldn't get his name. But I remembered. But that was a really
Right.
good album, and
Thank you.
yeah, and you did a lot of good stuff. I mean, one of the albums that I remember, and you already know where I'm probably going to say here, was one of your albums called Banjo Sandwich. And
Right, right.
that was a big album. Tell us a little bit about that and how that come about and who was on it.
All righty. Well, that was recorded in I'm going to say 1975, and when I was a kid and marched out of my house in Norman, Oklahoma, looking for a music store, the first one I found was one called Mike Ritchie's Guitar Center.
Hmm.
And so I was 14 or so, and Mike Ritchie was maybe 22 or 23 and had a music store there in Norman. And he and I became really good friends over the years. And so when I started playing music professionally, he showed up in my life, but he was going by the name of Slim. So he became Slim Ritchie, and
Slim
he
Richie.
started a label called Ridge Runner. And so I recorded my first banjo record with him on Ridge Runner, and that was in 1975. And at the time, was Country Gazette. I was playing with Country Gazette for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the record with me is Roger Bush playing bass and Roland White playing mandolin. The guitar player on there is a friend of mine for many years, and a lot of bluegrass pickers know him through his, not only his music, but his photography. He took a lot of pictures that people look at nowadays of bluegrass players, and his name was Doc Hamilton.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Doc played guitar, and then fiddle player was a Fort Worth-based fiddle player named Dave Ferguson. So that was Banjo Sandwich.
Man, I know that seems like a lifetime back for you, doesn't it?
In some ways it does, but I can, close my eyes and
Still fresh.
be there again.
Yep.
I can be there again.
That's what's funny, about music. I mean, like Banjo Sandwich. I've been listening, to some of your stuff again, dragging stuff out this week since it's going to be on. And that album, I mean, that, it was done a long time back, but it's still as fresh as, as if it was done, recently. And it's got a good touch to it. And I really like that.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, I mean that, bud. And, I was thinking today, this time of year, you and I are usually in Germany.
Right. Yep. That's absolutely true until the, last couple of years when things have all kind of gone underground.
Yeah.
Or I should say gone to ground rather than underground. We used to meet up in Munich for the Bluegrass Camp, Germany.
Take that ride, over to, what was the name of that town? It don't matter, I can never find it if I was looking for it, but I always enjoyed, and I hadn't told you this, but I always enjoyed when I got up to go to breakfast or whatever, when I went into the cafeteria, I would see you in there, because I always enjoyed talking to you and Greg Cahill a lot. And, we had a good time. It was so much more than just the music there, because we all got to hang out and know each other and stuff.
Right.
And we had some pretty cool jam sessions over there, too. So
I thought so. I certainly enjoyed them myself.
They were good. Do you know if they're going to have the camp next year or not?
I would assume they are going to try. I would just bet they do.
Yeah.
So,
I'm trying to figure out what to do because Rudiger had talked to me, and I since went on dialysis, so I don't know. I get dialysis like every third day, every second day, and then every third, and I'm just kind of scared driving that far, or not driving. I'd really be scared if I drove that far. Really be scared. But I'm just, worried about something happening that, I can't get my dialysis treatment. But in the next year, I'll have it figured out for sure.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I always look forward to that. It's a long trip, but once you get there, it's a lot of fun, and then by the time that last day comes, though, you are ready to go home, because it's just I could sleep for a week when I get back home, but I'm just not able to sleep for a week. It seems like a lot of my stuff piles up and all. But tell me some things you're doing now with the pandemic going on and all. What are you doing to keep the music alive?
Yeah, like that camp in Germany, I do a lot of music camps around the country, and a lot of those, I should say a number of them, have gone to being online, and so I've kept my hand in by appearing at those kinds of events, but
Hmm.
all online. And
Are those
and I don't write tunes anymore. I just write ditties. So
writing little ditties?
I've written a few little ditties and a couple of waltzes.
Hmm.
I've written that I enjoy playing for myself here,
You like
and so
teaching? You like teaching, Ellen?
I do. I enjoy it. I like doing the camps.
Hmm.
I like teaching in groups.
Yeah, I'm the
Uh,
same way.
yeah,
One on one's a little one on one's kind of hard for me because it's funny. I'll be teaching somebody. I don't know if it's like this for you, and it's like, wow, I've run out of stuff to teach them, and then they'll come back in the next week, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they've just had the best time in the world, and I say, really? Okay, all
yeah,
right,
yeah,
let's do it again, and
right,
bring the credit card and scan it,
yeah,
you know.
right, right.
But
No, but I do. I really enjoy them, and I like being with the folks that are interested in bluegrass and the banjo in particular, and they're just we're in the music. We certainly love the music and love playing music, but we love the people, enjoy the people who like this kind of music.
oh
And
yeah,
it's not like, a lot of other kinds of music. If you were interested in classical music, you don't go necessarily to hear a concert and then go up and want to pick some with
no,
with the people afterwards. Where in bluegrass, you want to mingle and people want to show you something or want you to play their instrument or want to play yours or
hmm,
ask you about, what for you, what kind of bar do you use,
yeah.
uh,
What kind of strings? What kind of
what kind
picks?
of strings, and how did you get that certain sound on that song,
Yeah, yeah.
that they like. So, and it's just a real fun, heartwarming thing to be a part of for sure.
Well, sometimes when you're playing a lot, you get done and you leave the stage and it's hot, and the first thing you want to do is try to get to your car or wherever inside, just to get away. And
Right.
and after being off nearly 2 years, I realize how much I miss the fan interaction of people that was there waiting to talk and stuff like that. And it's not that I just would avoid them because it's not in me. But sometimes you're just wore out when you come off
Sure.
the stage. But my gosh, I sit around really missing that. Even if the stage was 100 degrees, I miss that right now. I miss being around my buddies, and and you're the same way. You're a lot more of this than I am because you've been around playing for so long. That's my dog's going crazy. Don't worry about it. I
All righty.
hope the door's unlocked and they get out and somebody adopts them. But with you've done this so long, and you've got so many people that want to see you because you don't, like me right now, and the same thing that you did. Uh, I I was playing every week. You know how that is. You play every week, and then when you get where you're just playing select stuff, uh, where it becomes more about, you know, about what it is than about making money. That's when it's real fun, I think,
Sure.
and I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I mean, we all enjoy making money because we couldn't do this, but there's some stuff that you look at it and say, well, I would play that for a whole lot less than I would this one because I have so much fun there, and
Right.
uh,
Right.
and that's what I miss. I miss those festivals, and I hope that we get fired back up, and I hope you and I get to pick some more together, maybe in
Well, that'd be
Germany.
that'd be wonderful. Wonderful.
Would be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's real good. I did my first in-person camp here near Nashville for a guy named Banjo Ben Clark.
Hmm.
And, I came home and I told my wife, I said, my face hurt so much from smiling.
Hmm.
You know,
I know.
it was, it was so good
I
to be
know.
around folks and, just talk about music and not talk about, what's anything else, but just talk about music.
Yeah.
So I had a great time,
You know.
and looking forward to a bunch more.
We have uh, playing music. We have it's almost like a second family that's out there, and so many of your regular family don't know them now. Mine does. Well, my son does because he's out there picking. But you have like a whole set of family out there that you care. There's a lot of them out there that you care just as much about as if they were blood relatives. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I miss those people. It's like you know you don't get to see the same people every week. Sometimes you do, but it's almost like having a holiday. Uh, when your buddies are there, when
Yeah.
and you're not too tired. Uh, but I always have certain cities, and I know you're the same way that certain people will be there, certain friends, and it's always good to show up and you see them out in the crowd waving at you,
Oh,
and
sure.
makes
Yeah,
it
yeah. That's all true.
makes it good.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
here's what I do on here. I go through because I get a lot of messages, and I go through a lot, so we can hit a few here and then catch them here and there. But I want to just go through and read a few here. Neil McDowell said, "Hi, Mr. Phil. Good to see you. Good to see you too, buddy." And Janet Lee Carpenter said, "Hello, Phil. Glad to see you tonight." Well, thank you, and I hope you're glad to see Alan. And hey, here we go. Now, my buddy David Walker, you know David, Corey Walker's daddy and Jared's dad, don't you?
I'm not sure I do, but
Well,
uh,
I'll tell
it,
you, I'll tell
it's all
you,
okay.
I'll tell you who David is. David is probably one of my very best friends, and his son Jared plays mandolin for Billy Strings, and
Uh,
yeah, he's got a real good gig. And anyway, David's other son, Corey, is Corey Walker. That's a real young banjo player around Nashville right now that's just killing it, playing really good
right.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But David's a dentist down in Florida. And he wrote just now, he said, Alan is my favorite banjo man, one of the most unique stylists of all time. And yeah, I agree with him on that. And David's a stickler, but he pretty much said he likes you much better than to hear his son play banjo. So that's pretty good, right there.
Yeah.
And I've got something special here too on my board. I'll have to tell you guys what it is, but uh, over here on the messages, I've got a friend named Ben Brand, and he's give us three thumbs up. Now Ben's a dobro player, and he lives in Arkansas, and I want to tell you a little bit about him just here real quick. I met Ben before I was ever sick, and Ben was just overcoming cancer. He had the same kind I did, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and Ben was kind of my guy that I looked to, I would see him living and doing good, and it made me say, hey, I can live and do good. Well, Ben's been doing real good, and about 5 days ago, I was coming out of the hospital, and sometimes you're like getting on an elevator and somebody calls you at the wrong time and you pass it, but I never do that with Ben. And anyway, I answered the phone, and Ben was getting ready to head into the operating room, and he had a brain tumor, and they were able to take that out. And just the pictures of him the day after. Ben, I mean, Ben, you looked terrible, but you look so much better than I imagined that someone could come through surgery like that. And if there's anybody, people come to me all the time, tell me, you've been really lucky, you've been really blessed and stuff. But if there's one guy that I can say that I personally have seen God lay his hands on, and it's Ben Brand. And I hope that you guys will remember that name, Ben Brand. Send him up some prayers. He's not out of the woods yet, but he's going to be. He's tough. So I didn't mean to have to stop in the middle, but just seeing Ben there and thumbs up just lets me know he's doing better today. So that's awesome. And
Sure, that's great.
it is. Love you, Ben, and your wife Sherry. You guys are the best. And Debbie Lynn Cantwell says, great to see you all. And let's see if there's anything else here. Debbie said again, great show. Well, good. You better not leave. You better hang on and watch the rest of it since you said that. And Lynn Lawson asked you, Alan, do you have a favorite banjo?
I've got, I've been playing since 1975, I think it is, Stelling banjos. And so I've been playing for the last 10 years or so, maybe a Crusader model Stelling, which prior to that I played the Staghorn model, and that one's, I like it a lot. But I guess that's my favorite one right now. And I tend to just play one banjo and stick to it.
Yeah.
I don't switch around a lot.
J.D. Crowe always told me that, people would come around, and you'll relate to this, and they'd say, what you picking this week? Crowe would always say something like, well, the one I've been playing for the last, couple of years, because he was like that. He didn't believe in changing, and I know that with dobro. You play every dobro that I've got, I have to play them a little different. And each time I pick up another one, I have to reorient myself to that, where the sweet spots are, where you do that, and it's all different. So that's why I think, like you're saying, that you get on one and you play it, because you really it gets to be it gets to just be like a second arm.
Yeah. Since you mentioned J.D. Crowe, can I tell you a quick J.D. Crowe story?
Hey, of course. That's what we do here.
Right. And it has to do with, just how much a banjo, the instrument you play is really important, but the player brings a lot to the instrument too. So I was at a festival, and this may have been when I was with Jimmy Martin, and J.D. Crowe had just gotten off stage, and he was standing there talking with some people with his banjo, and a young man, maybe 15 or 17, came up and asked J.D., says, could I play your banjo? And J.D. says, sure, and he handed the guy the banjo, and he went off to a picnic table nearby and sat and played on it. And J.D. was talking with some fans, and maybe 10 minutes later, the young man brings the banjo back to J.D. and hands it back to J.D. and says, it sounds a lot like mine. And I thought, it probably does.
To you, it does.
So just how much the player brings to an instrument is, and we all know this, Earl Scruggs or JD or
sure.
any of the good players
and you
could play a lesser quality instrument and still, bring out a large amount of quality and good tone and out of a lesser instrument. So I just thought that was real illustrative of how much the player brings to the instrument.
Yeah, definitely.
So good instruments, to have a good instrument is certainly good, but to be able to play it and to bring out the fullness of it is really something too. And certainly JD can do that, hands down, so to speak.
Oh, You know,
So,
I told this story sometime back on here, a short version, but Crow was over at Frank Neat's one time, and he was getting his banjo worked on or something, so he left, and a guy come in, and Frank told him that was JD's banjo, and the guy was looking at it and everything, and he hit a lick on it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that sounds just like JD, but there's still something missing with it." And he told Frank that, and I believe I'm telling this right. He said, if you can make a banjo that sounds exactly like JD's, where you can't really tell them apart, I'll buy it." And Frank supposedly told him, "Well, I can do that, but you'll have to take it to JD and let him play it. It won't sound
yeah,
it won't sound the
yeah,
same." And
exactly.
but what you're talking about there with people and stuff, it's so many people just don't have the ear for things, and I understand that because it's a musician's thing a lot of times. But you could go. I know people that you could go through the best banjo ever made and go all the way through to just a piece of junk, and they can't tell no difference, really. And I kind of laugh at that, but there's things that people do in their lines of work that certain people will put a roof on a house a certain way or something. They'll tell you, "Look at that, don't you see that?" And it's like, "No, I don't see it, but it looks real good, whatever it is." Everybody has their craft that they do and are proud of, and the good ones like you, JD, Earl Scruggs, you guys know how to get that, and that's why after all these years, your name's still right there in the top of the hat with everybody else, and that's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, I think I've lost you here.
Are you there?
Oh, yep.
Can you hear
There I
me
am.
now?
There you are.
Well, I
Yeah, yeah. It is just like you say. I've known some stonemasons,
mhm,
that which is an incredible art. Just to be able to look at two stones
mhm.
or a pile of stones and know which ones will go together and
Yeah.
which ones won't, and what edge you have to use and how you have to turn it and how you have to chip off a little bit to make it fit. Or so
Hmm.
everybody has
Their art,
uh,
their
their
craft.
art.
Hmm.
My mother uh, was a math major, I think, but she could look. She was a proofreader at the newspaper for a while,
Hmm.
and she could look at a page of print, and without even actually reading it so much, she could just see what was wrong. She could find mistakes in it
Well,
without even hardly reading it, just because things didn't look right. And musicians are like that.
sure.
They can play music or listen to music, and you know when it's as it should be, or you can tell when it's a little wonky or whatever, and
Hmm.
whatnot. And so anyway, you're right. You're absolutely right,
Well,
Bill.
we want to talk about some bands here a little bit. You
All right.
were you were a member of Jimmy Martin's band, and you got to tell me a Jimmy story with this.
Well, yeah. There are a lot of them, and it's no secret that Jimmy was kind of a prickly character,
Hmm.
kind of had thorns all over him.
Hmm.
And when you'd get near him, you'd get scratched.
Hmm.
Uh, but just I'll talk about some of the good things.
Sure.
We used to we used to sit at festivals, and I'd listen to all the bands because I'm from Oklahoma originally, and
Hmm.
I didn't. In Oklahoma, we had some really good players.
Hmm.
Before I went to back east, I had played with Byron Berline. I played with Buck White and his family,
Right.
and Doc Hamilton and I knew some good pickers down in Texas that I played with. So I had heard, some pretty good picking, but I hadn't heard a lot of the Eastern bands. I
Hmm.
got to see the Country Gentlemen, and I
Yeah.
got to see Ralph Stanley and Don Reno and a lot of the bands. And so Jimmy would sort of, Jimmy had his own way of wanting his music played, and I was very, very respectful of it and tried to do it the
Hmm.
best I absolutely could.
Hmm.
And I believed everything he told me because, when he would talk about the music, there was nothing he ever told me that I did not find in my own mind to be
Hmm.
true about the music. And we would uh, sit and listen to bands, and sometimes he would make the comment that he says, there are four guys, because back then most of the bands were guys,
Hmm.
uh, and said, there are four guys up there trying to play the best they can. And what he was trying to say was that they had, you put a band together with a guitar, mandolin, bass, and a banjo, and you just let them do what they want. And, the banjo player plays what he wants to play, and the guitar player plays guitar rhythm like he wants to play it, and so on, the mandolin and the bass. And they don't go together quite as well as, if you have a plan
True.
uh, about how you're going to play, and are all of the same mind in a sense of how bluegrass music is played. In Jimmy's, there was only one mind,
Hmm.
and it was his, and he
Sure.
played it like he wanted it. So, and he would, what it pointed out to me was that it took more than just being a pretty good banjo player and a pretty good guitar player and a pretty good bass player and a pretty good mandolin player to really make a band.
Hmm.
And and he would talk about kind of, not about the bands we were listening to so much, but in his music, he would talk about playing together, and there were licks and things that went together.
Hmm. Right.
And, another thing is on a backup. If you listen, and doing these workshops, people will ask a question about backup. And inevitably it comes to a question like, well, if the fiddle is doing backup, should the banjo just be doing
Chops.
uh, chops? Yeah. Or, do the fiddle do the chorus and the banjo do the verse or whatnot? Well, if you listen to Jimmy Martin's music, uh, they did backup all the time, all of them.
Hmm.
The banjo, the mandolin,
He did.
and there's some of the slow songs, and I'm going to mention Fraulein
Hmm.
and oh, I can't think of any others. There's an album that's I think it's called Good and Country, not his
Hmm.
first one, but a later one that has Sweet Dixie on
Oh
it
yeah.
and Fraulein and all the good things outweigh the bad. But they do some of the slower songs, and you listen to it, and the fiddle and the mandolin's doing a tremolo, the banjo's doing a roll style backup, the fiddle is doing its thing, and they're all doing backup, all of them, all
Mm-hmm.
the time. And for Jimmy, uh, he thought if it's good backup, it's good backup.
Yep.
And if you're all on the same mind about what you're doing, then there's no reason you can't do it all the time, or
Hmm.
there's no reason you have to divide it up.
Right. Well,
And
uh, J.D. Crowe was, I guess, he being out of Jimmy Martin's band. J.D. thought so much like that because when I first joined up, I was used to being in bands, local bands, where it's like, well, mandolin player, you take this first part of the lead and you take this half of the chorus. And when we got to JD's, we never did that. And it become one of those things was after we played it a few times and we threw our stuff in, unless JD said something like, oh, that's not going to work there, then that's what you played each time because it just fit. And,
right,
even sometimes just a few notes, they become signature stuff.
Sure, sure. Well, one of the things and I'm going to say this, I made this, what I'm going to say I made up, but it comes from listening to Jimmy talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've developed this idea about sort of three different things you do to play backup. And one of them I call cruising. And it's just on a banjo, it would be just playing a roll or playing chord chops, whatever you do that's sort of the default, what you fall back when you're not going to do anything else. You have something that you're doing. You're playing the rhythm and you're playing the harmony. And that's sort of just if the guitar is just playing rhythm and the mandolin's just doing chops and the banjo's just doing a roll and all over the chords. I call that cruising. And then that would be one thing you do. Then the next thing he talked about was sort of moving the song from chord to chord. So you had your licks or your runs, whatever you want to call them, that would take you from a G chord to a C chord, and around through the chord changes. And I call that signaling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the turn signal on your car.
Sure.
You're going to go left or right, and then the last thing is fill in the holes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you do your licks. So if everybody has this same sort of strategy about what you're doing,
Automatic.
then it kind of goes together. And I use the description, and for anybody out there that's when I was with Jimmy, I drove a bus. He had this, oh God, I'm amazed that we're all still alive, from this old bus. It was like a 48 or 49 flexible that had a Buick straight 8
Wow.
engine, and you had to double clutch it, to get it to change gears. And for people who have done this, they know this. For people who don't, what you have to do is you push in the clutch, take it out of gear, then you let the clutch up, and you rev up the engine to where you think it's the engine and the transmission is turning at a speed that is similar.
Mm-hmm.
Then you push the clutch back in, and if you've done it right,
It'll shift.
it shifts. If it doesn't, it just grinds.
Oh yeah.
Well, when you're playing music and it's going well, and you're going over these chord changes, and it's like when you've double clutched just right, you just have to lay your hand on the shifter, and it just sucks it in.
Exactly. That makes sense. Makes sense.
Next gear, and that's how playing music is. It just sucks. The music just sucks it along.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it sucks. I don't want to say that, but it just pulls it through so smoothly. And I call it playing descriptively.
Mm-hmm.
You describe a G chord, and then you sort of signal and describe that you're going to go to a C chord, and everybody hears it coming. The audience hears it.
Oh, yeah.
Your fellow musicians hear it, and it just works. And it's not the only way. I don't want to say it's the only way to do it, but you asked about Jimmy Martin, so that's kind of that, and the only Jimmy Martin story that I care to tell, because a lot of them
you can't tell.
You could if you were in a smaller group.
Yeah, sure.
People weren't listening all over the internet.
Like in Germany, eating breakfast like we used to do.
Right. But, at the end there, Jimmy was in hospice.
Yeah.
And I called him up. And, Jimmy can be kind of cranky. But I figured, I could call him up and he's going to say, oh, Munde, you're the reason I never made it onto the Grand Ole Opry. But, he was so nice. He was incredibly nice and just talked about, thank you for being in the band with me. We had a good time traveling together. I appreciate it, and he mentioned a couple of solos I'd taken on the few recordings I did with him. and it was just really sweet. And that's what I'd like to remember.
Sure.
There's all the other stuff which
Oh yeah.
uh, is out there for the world to see and to know about.
Yeah.
And but at the very end, he was incredibly kind
Hmm.
to me, and I really appreciated that. It made me feel
Hmm.
really good about what I had done being in the band with him. I was with
Right.
him from October of 1969 to October of 1971.
Oh, wow.
So I was with him for 2 years
You played
there.
a lot of good festivals during that time.
Right,
I'm
right.
sure. You know,
Yeah,
Jimmy, the thing with me and Jimmy, I think when he saw that I was affiliated with Crow playing in his band, that gave me a partial pass. And then when Jimmy started, you know how he'll do, he'll pick. I just was, I was right back on him. Just, you know, back then I guess as abrasive in as he was, and he took to me that he really liked me. If we were sitting on the bus or something, because we had the Bean Blossom bus that he drove a long time, and when he quit, we had that one. And anyway, he would come up on the bus, and he would come over and sit over. You know how you do? He'd come plop down beside you, and he'd just look at you real intent for a while. And it's like, I don't know what he's getting ready to say, but he's either getting ready to kill me, destroy me with something he's going to say, or whatever. And he would look at you, and you was just sure he was getting ready to say something. And he would say something so nice. And you know, I got along good with him. Not to have ever played in his band, and I think most of that was just because my connection with JD. Uh,
right, right. Well,
you,
he had, as you know, he admired JD very, very much, and Bill
yeah,
Emerson
sure,
were his
did.
two favorite banjo players at the
Hmm.
time. I
Hmm.
mean, he may have had some after I left that he liked. I'm sure he did. But when I was with him, it was JD. And I'll tell you a funny thing about playing festivals back then for me anyway is, we would wind up on festivals with JD Crow's group, which at that time I think would have been called the Kentucky Mountain Boys.
Right.
And then also with the Country Gentlemen that had Bill Emerson, and then also the Osborne brothers with Sonny Osborne. And
Oh
all three of
yeah.
those banjo players had worked with Jimmy.
Hmm.
So he would always get them to come up on stage and play Train 45,
Hmm.
which, as you know, is just blisteringly
Yeah,
fast.
wide open.
Yeah, and I never could quite crank it up to that level. So, but I would have to be there, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" And I would watch them, and JD and Sonny and Bill were always, I won't say they were competitive in a sense, but they liked to sort of egg each other on.
Hmm.
So they're like swarming over around this microphone. And I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to go in there. And I looked off to the side, and there was a microphone way off to the side. And I thought, well, when it comes my turn, I'm going to go over to there, to that one.
Hmm.
So it came my turn, and I go over there, and I just hit two notes. And it was so loud.
Oh
It was
Lord.
like twice as loud as the others. And the audience just roared.
What did what did Jimmy and JD and those guys do? Did they look at you real funny like you had them turn your mic up?
Oh, no, no. I mean, I don't think anybody thought I had anything to do with it, but it was just funny to me, because I was, just going to, just meek little old me is going to go over there and
And then hit
try
it
to
in the middle. Oh,
try to make it. And I swear, I hit it once and the leaves fell off the trees. It was so loud, but I always loved that. And Jimmy kind of enjoyed that too,
oh yeah, sure, sure.
you
You,
know.
you know, Crow. It's funny. I hate to keep talking about Crow, but he's during these stories we're telling. I remember playing with him one time, and they asked to do a mic check. JD been over there, and he got his okay, so it was all good. JD says, "Yeah, leave it right there. That's good." So anyway, the sound guy looks over at me, and I've got a mic that was probably turned on for a fiddle, and it's sitting there. And what do you do when you do a sound check? You hit a couple of notes. I hit my notes, and I just hit two notes. I didn't have anything to do with it. I hit these two notes, and it was so loud. Crow looks over at me, and he's got his fingers pinched up on his nose, and he said, "Son, now listen, I like a dobro. I don't like them where it's making my skull crush in." And he said, "You're gonna have to turn that down a little bit." And I said, "JD, he told me to do a mic check." And Crow went on probably 10 minutes about, I'm tired of everybody having their loud instruments trying to compete with each other. And he gives us like a whole sermon. And at the very end, the sound guy says, "Are you guys ready to go on and finish sound checking?" And JD says, "Well, we're done, ain't we?" And the guy says, "Well, if you still want the dobro that loud." And JD go, "Heck no, I told you to turn it down." JD fired all back up again. But JD was funny, like most of those guys. You could just, one little thing that you could say or something would just trip him. And but JD was such a good guy though, and one of my best friends. And just like when I was growing up, I'm not going to say growing up because you're not that old, but the thing about it is, you see people like you, people like JD, you listen to you guys on vinyl all the time, and you never imagine one time that you'll get to be friends with people like you, people like JD, and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the good things about bluegrass too is people in this business, their goals are a lot different. It's like, people say, "Hey, I want to learn how to play like Alan Munde. I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to play like JD or Earl Scruggs." And then, you get into other music like country music now, not our former country music, but country music now. And it's not about how can I learn to do my best, but, how big of a bus can I get? How many fancy suits can I get? And,
Right.
and that's what's so good about bluegrass. It's always been about the music. And,
Right.
and it's been competitive between all the people, that go up on stage. I mean, you got your people that, when they were around, made you ready to come to your best. And I think it's like that with anybody. I mean, JD told me he would see Earl Scruggs, and he knew that it was his time, and he had to be on his very best for that because it was Earl Scruggs. And I like that. I like that in the music because it keeps all of us wanting to get better instead of just being content with what it is. And
Oh, sure.
and it makes a big difference. But hey, I want to read a few more, and then I'm gonna let you get off and go to bed.
All right.
What time is it where you're at?
Well, in Central Time, it's just a little after 8 right now.
Okay, you're in the Central.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, don't call me sir. uh, all right, Alan. Got a buddy named Bobby Wright, great dobro player, and does the best setup. He's like, he's the man when it comes to setting up dobros. And he wrote, "Hey Phil, ask Alan if he has any Gene Wooten stories. Thanks a lot." And we're all big fans, me and Bobby, of Gene, and love Gene. And and he's gone now. A lot of folks probably tuning in, has heard him but didn't realize, he's been gone quite a few years. But tell us something, a story that you remember about Gene Wooten when you guys
Well,
played together.
Gene, was a really, really great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He sure was, and highly admired in the dobro world
Mm-hmm.
for not only his playing, but he was
Setups.
also setups and
Mm-hmm.
did lots of stuff. And Gene was kind of a hoarder,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I lived in Oklahoma at this time, and Roland and Gene lived in Nashville, and I'd drive, east. If we were going east, I'd drive over and through Nashville and pick up Roland and Gene, and we'd travel on. And sometimes I'd stay over, and I'd stayed at Gene's quite a bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned one time, I said, Gene, I need to go out. I forgot my toothbrush. And he says, hold it, wait here. And he ran out off and came back, and he must have had 15 or 20 toothbrushes in the packages and fanned them out, like a deck of cards,
Wow. Wow.
and did that. But I mean, he was a unique character. But let me mention one thing about his playing is, we would do this a lot, and people never really noticed it. The fact is, uh, it would be 3 or 4 songs down in the set
Mm-hmm.
before they would even notice this. But we would go out and play it. It was me on the banjo, uh, Gene on the dobro, Roland on the mandolin, and we had Bill Smith for a while, the
Mm-hmm.
singer bass player,
Right.
and Mike Anderson, singer bass player. And but you'll notice what is missing is there's no guitar.
Mm.
Well,
Okay.
Gene would do all the guitar runs,
Wow.
on his
Mm-hmm.
dobro, and he would do the G run,
Mm-hmm.
boo-da-doo-da-doo,
Yep.
and he
And
would do it every
rhythm.
time.
Good rhythm
And it,
too.
oh God, just fabulous. But he would do that G run and just smile so big. He's sort of fair complected and red, so when
Mm-hmm.
he'd smile, it was just like a glow. It
Mm-hmm.
was like Rudolph's nose going off. But he would do
He.
bro and just, oh, he loved doing that. But we would go out and play 3 or 4 songs right at the first of the set without
Mm-hmm.
stopping, you know
Right.
and then we'd stop and talk a little bit, and we'd switch a guitar. And I had a guy come up and tell me, he says, I was stunned to see that you switched and there was no guitar. I realized there was no guitar on those first 4 tunes. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, yes, because Gene, you know
Was playing
is
it.
so good, was so good, rhythm and all the little fill stuff he'd do. And I mean, he was really, and it'd be back to Jimmy Martin's stuff, is Gene knew how to do the backup. He knew
Mm-hmm.
when to play the rhythm, when to do things that would signal you're going to another chord, and
Sure.
he'd fill in the licks. And he knew the system, so to speak, to where it was really cool playing with Gene. Gene was really, really, really good, and I
He
have nothing
was.
but good
He.
good words for Gene. And he
Yeah.
was a real uh, uh, unique character.
He
He
was
sure was.
very good
Uh,
guy.
yeah, yeah.
He.
Really helpful. Would help
Yeah.
anybody. He
Yeah.
was in college. He had studied to be back in that day a shop instructor.
Hmm.
So he knew a lot about fixing stuff and how things worked and whatnot. When he was at my house one time when I was living in Oklahoma, he fixed my wife's coffee bean
Hmm.
grinder.
Really.
Wasn't working, and he said, "Well, let me look at that." And he fooled around with it a little bit and took it apart and got it back together, and it worked.
Very
You know,
mechanical.
yeah, very much so, very much so. And that showed up in his dobro
Oh
setups, and
yeah. Yeah.
you
I
know,
remember every time we'd play on the same show. Now, Gene, the first time I met Gene, it was kind of funny because I went into Showbro and Jerry Douglas had told me to go over there about a setup. And I asked, and I was talking to him, I didn't realize. And it was almost like in The Wizard of Oz where they go up and they get met by the wizard, but they don't realize it's him. And I went up and said, "Is Gene Wooten here?" And he says, "Who wants to know?" And I said, "Well, I do. He goes, who's I? Who are you? And I told him, and we started laughing. I told him, Jerry Douglas had sent me, and he goes, oh gosh. And after that, we were good. But Gene, from that day, we were buddies. And every time, and I think he did this probably with everybody that he knew, that anytime I would play, Gene would come over and he'd say, "What'd you play? What you playing today?" And I'd tell him. He'd say, "Them ain't the right strings on that." And he'd get my dobro and put it on a picnic table and cut off all my strings and line everything up and put on another set of strings. And he'd say, "Now tell me what you think about that." And it was always a lot better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Gene was just one of those guys that, a lot of people didn't get to know him because, like you said, Gene was, I think Gene was quiet with the folks he didn't know, and then with the folks he did know, he was just, he was Gene, and
Sure.
I miss him a lot, and I know you spent a lot of time with him. But speaking of, you talk about Gene, wanting to do the mechanical stuff. You were a school teacher for a little while in Nashville, weren't you?
Right. I was a substitute teacher.
Were you really?
Yeah, when I was in Nashville, I'd do some work, but I was also a paper hanger and a painter and a gas station attendant and
Whatever they needed. Whatever they
you know,
needed.
yeah.
How long did you do that?
Well, I was with Jimmy for 2 years,
Yeah.
so I did little bits and pieces of all that the whole 2 years I was there because, Jimmy didn't work all that enough. He didn't work enough
Sure.
for me anyway. But, I was young, and I think back onto those days, and I remember well not having any money. And when I say no money, I mean no money.
No money, right.
No money. And I don't remember ever being terribly worried about it because I was young and in Nashville playing music. And, I just really had I have lots of fond memories. One time, some people will know the name Tom McKinney.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Tom, when I was in Nashville in my car, I knew how much gas it took to get back to my house where I lived. And I lived in a place called Rayon City, which was a little niche of Old Hickory. Anyway,
yeah, right.
I knew how much gas it took me to get back home and in the evening. So I was out and I got home and I didn't have enough gas to do anything but drive to the end of the street where there was a gas station and I could fill up the next day. So I got home and I got a call from Tom McKinney, and he had taken the bus from North Carolina to Nashville. Why don't I come? And he was staying at the Knoll Hotel downtown. Why don't I come down and hang out with him? And I said, "Oh man, I'll see what I can do." And so I got in my car and started driving, and I knew the service station at the end of the street was closed.
Oh, Lordy.
And I knew where the next one was, so I nursed it as far as I could, but man, I ran out of gas. So here I am, coasting over to the side of the road, parked my car, and I could see the lights of the gas station up a few blocks. And so here I am kicking rocks, cursing Tom McKinney for getting me out. And I'm walking through the parking lot of a car wash that's gravel. Back then it would be gravel. And I look down on the ground and there's a wad of money. And I look all around and I look to see if anybody's nearby, that might have lost it. And it's dark and I'm standing there. So I reach down and pick it up, and I think it's $35 or $40, which, 1970, that was a
lot of money.
That was my month's rent.
Yeah,
practically. Man, I thought, wow. So I walk on down, get gas, get a gas can from the guy, go back, put a gallon of gas in, drive back, get some gas. I didn't fill it up because I didn't want to spend all my money just on gas.
Mm.
I drive into town. Tom, man, you're not going to believe this story. So I buy him dinner. I think I bought him a steak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I had $40. Man, I'm doing good. So when I was in Nashville, money wasn't on the top of my list, but I did
Right.
need it. I did realize I needed. You know, another Kenny Baker helped me out a lot
Mm-hmm.
when I was in Nashville. He and I got to be good buddies, and I helped him move. He moved from Nashville out to I think there's a place around there called Cotton Center or something like that.
It's co- there's one called Cotton Town.
Cotton Town, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he moved out to there, but I helped him move. But anyway, he was real good because poor old Kenny Baker had gotten, I think, a DWI, and he had his license suspended, so he couldn't drive his car. Well, he had the same kind of car I had, which was a Buick LeSabre,
Mm-hmm.
but
Wow.
oh God, it was a boat. But he was a much newer model, but he couldn't drive it. So he says, your tires look really bad, and they were. He said, I'll tell you what, I've got some tires on a car, and you can have them as long as the tires you give me will hold air and stand up, so the car won't be sitting on the ground. So I would drive out to the Kenny Baker stayed in a motel, I think, out in Goodlettsville.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go out every time I needed a tire. I'd go out and get a hold of Kenny, and we'd go out there and take a tire off of my car and put it on his, and one of his on mine. So he was a big help to me and a really nice guy.
Did you
Very,
ever
very.
take? Did you ever take the carburetor or transmission out?
I never got that far. I'm not sure he would have done that.
No, no. You know,
But,
Kenny was gone. I saw him a few times with Monroe, but when I actually started, being what I'd say professional, playing, traveling the road, Kenny was already pretty much gone, and I never got to know him good. But, I felt like I knew him pretty good through stories that, people would tell me, and I know he and Bobby Sloan were good buddies, and Bobby had talked about him a lot, and it was funny. I was around him one time up in Pennsylvania, and it was he and Josh Graves were sitting out on a porch, and Kenny was smoking a cigarette, and he smoked all the time, so he like had a yellow hand, and we're sitting up there, and they're talking about stuff, and just I guess living back in the past, little things. And somebody comes up and sits right down the middle and starts talking about something with Kenny. Do you remember this, or do you remember Bill Monroe or something like that? And Kenny stopped and he said, yeah, I remember Bill Monroe. Said, now, is that what you needed to know? And they said, well, I was just going to ask you some stuff. And Kenny says, me and Josh, my buddy over here, we're sitting over here talking a little bit, and said, we'll be done in about 30 minutes if you want to come back over. And that person in like 30 minutes came back around, and Kenny was, like he said, come back in 30 minutes. Kenny sat there and talked to him. Josh did too. And that's what's sad. I mean, the old, I don't know how to put it on, I mean, old, but the creators, the innovators, people that really set this music on its path. I mean, we've lost so many of them, and it's good that we have records and stuff, but it's good to talk to people like you, and you, like I said, you're not old. You were around just a little bit before I was out, and I missed a lot of stories about people, and talking to people like you, talking to people like JD and all, help bring those people to life with me to know, you know, I like these people's music, but what were they really like? And you hear, you know, good things and stuff, usually like JD would say, and you know, it makes you have a whole lot more respect for them when you do that, you know.
Sure, sure.
But
Well, all the most like Kenny Baker was a very, very nice man to
hmm
me, and I think to most people he was. So, you know, and he just is like in a lot of ways all the bluegrass people down at, you know, you scrape away all the other stuff, and they all love to play,
hmm
you know, and that's all we all like to do. So, you know, just right away you have a lot in common.
sure,
You know,
you do.
if you like to play music and you play it, interestingly enough, you know, for Kenny, one of the reasons he sort of took to me, and it never was as a banjo player, not that he didn't like it or anything, but
hmm
as a guitar player, because you know, I'm from Oklahoma and I knew some Western swing stuff,
Oh
and
yeah, that's his alley.
yeah, so he was just right away. He went, "Oh wow, this is really cool. I can play these tunes. Do you know this one?" And if I didn't, he'd say, "Well, it does this," you know. And he played
hmm
guitar well,
Oh
plenty
yeah,
well,
yep.
and he would say, "Well, do this here and do that," and I could get it pretty quickly for most of those things. And
hmm
so, you know, we sort of hit it off like that. And but anyway, it was uh, very cool being around those people. I just always saw myself as sort of an in-betweener. You know, I was in between, uh, you know, uh, I came along when you were still playing into one microphone,
Sure.
and then you know, it wasn't
Then
long at all.
changed.
After that, it changed, and I always thought it was interesting, kind of a uh, thing as the older players, you know, Jim and Jesse and Bill Monroe and
hmm
uh, whoever else we might mention, at a time, you know, when they grew up in music playing basically around one microphone. When it came to where there were multiple microphones, man, they wanted them. And at about the same time, not long after that, all the younger players that grew up playing on multiple microphones now want to play on one
One,
microphone.
yeah, they do, they do. And
Yeah, so,
there's an art to playing on one mic. Everybody can't do it. I never could master it. Uh, Now Dobro's hard because the
yeah,
angle, but you know Josh Graves would pull that thing up there sideways, and so would
yeah,
Gene. And it's an art, just as much of
right,
art of working a mic as it is learning how to sing and play
yeah.
and
You know,
stuff.
Phil. Sometimes I'll sit in with other groups and they'll say, "Oh, we just play on one microphone. Is that all right with you?" And I say, "Yeah, as long as it's on the banjo."
Yeah, it's all right if it's there.
Yeah. If it's a mic on only one mic and it's on the banjo, I, that's fine.
You know what's funny? If they don't know you, they always take you serious
I
for a
know.
minute, and I always laugh about that. How you can say stuff to people, and you know, and Jimmy Martin was like this. Jimmy, and you knew this. Jimmy was he was always into like shock factor. He would say things to see so much how you'd react to things.
Yeah,
And he had
yeah,
a certain way he wanted you to react. And if you reacted the way that he wanted you to, as far as like, you know, Jimmy liked for you to get right back with him. And I learned that early that if Jimmy could intimidate you, he would do that. But if you got right back with him, he would look over and grin, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's funny those guys like that and like the one microphone and all. It's I, I'm glad for a lot of the YouTube stuff where people can look back and see, you know, the people before that played, you know, played on one mic and stuff, and all because you know if it hadn't been for that stuff, we would have, you know, we would have lost that generation of really how it's done. Which there's a lot of bands doing it now really well, but
Right, right.
but the mics and sound systems make it a little bit easier. But
Yeah,
you can't replicate that tone that those old RCA mics and things had on
right.
banjos and mandolins and stuff. But Alan, I got two more questions I want to ask you. Let's
Sure.
talk just a minute or two about South Plains College. Tell the folks what that is, your part in that, and things like that.
Sure. South Plains College is located in Level Land, Texas, and that's Joe Carr would say it's the truth in advertising capital of West Texas. It's Level, but it's near
Hmm.
Lubbock, Texas,
Hmm.
and it was a community college that started in 19. I mean, the community college itself started probably in the 50s, but 1975 started what at that time was called a country and bluegrass music program.
Hmm.
And I taught there, Joe Carr taught there, uh, Mike Bubb and Ron Block and Stuart Duncan went there. Jeremy Garrett was a student there, Ashley Brown, uh, Leanne Womack
Hmm.
uh, went to school there. Natalie Maines uh,
Wow,
went to school there. Her dad, Lloyd Maines, a
Lloyd.
really uh, steel player, dobro player. There you
Yeah,
go.
he's awesome.
Yeah, he
Wow.
is, and he even taught there as a recording, and they had a recording program also, and he
Wow.
taught there. So there's lots of folks been through there, and I taught there. Like I say, I taught there from 1986 to 2006.
Wow. You were
So
there
I
a
was there for
while.
20 years, and really happy that I did it, and
Hmm.
had a good time. Ben Clark, who I've mentioned earlier, Banjo Ben Clark,
Hmm.
is a former student, and his two sisters, Katie and Penny Clark, who sometimes play under the moniker of the Purple Hulls.
Oh yeah, sure.
And Ben worked with Taylor Swift's band, was a banjo player and dobro and a multi-instrument guy with Taylor Swift.
Hmm.
Had a lot of success. So anyway, there's been a lot of successful people that are now in the music business from that went through South Plains College, not unlike East Tennessee State,
Well,
which is
that's
another.
true. That's true.
Re-
Same thing, kinda.
right, right. They have Dan Boner out there. He's fabulous.
Yeah,
Uh,
they've had everybody through. They've had Tim
yeah,
Stafford and all those guys. I'm not saying Ron Block, Adam Steffi, so
right,
many
right, right, right.
those people. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a real good thing, and I'm glad I got to do it, and I did it till it was time for me to go.
Sure, sure.
So I was, like I say, there 20 years, and uh, now
I think you did your time.
I did. People ask me what I'm doing now, and I tell them I'm still trying to be a banjo picking star, and I think this is my year. I think this is. I think I'm going to make it this year.
Oh, the COVID was mine because I didn't pick any. So,
Right, right.
well, you'll always
You
be a
know,
banjo star,
yeah,
buddy. You're a great player.
yeah. I always joke the IBMA had an award called the Emerging Artist
Hmm.
Award, and I always joke says, well, I won this Submerging Artist of the Year.
Oh
So
man. Um, you
anyway,
know, that's what's one thing I'll mention that's sad, really, that, you know, so many of the best players that I ever got to see and stuff, including you and so many others, the IBMA's going now and they're picking people who are, this or that, best guitar, best whatever. But it's sad that organization, and it's just the way things work, but all the greats of this music that never have a chance to be part of any of that unless they go in the Hall of Fame. And there's definitely, just because you're not IBMA winners doesn't mean that you're not great, not only great players out there, but but people who just continue to or innovate, from things they do or things they've done. And I've always just kind of took it like this. If I know that back in the day they had the Mule Skinner News Awards, and that was a big deal back then. And I know that our music's moving, getting more business and stuff like that. But it's good that the IBMA and the people, a lot of the pickers and stuff who are, who have been doing it a while, still, have stories, times that they played with some of these other players on the same shows, and have good memories of that. And it's just kind of one of those things, that it's just the times that you, I guess, are in the business and the times that you're out of it that the IBMA didn't cover and things, and it'll be different again in 20 more years. But
Sure.
it'd be nice to be able to go back some way and say, hey, this is the IBMA voting for 1970 or something. We'll do our thing, but here's voting for 1970. There's so many players at that time, banjo players. I've mentioned you again, of course, Eddie Adcock, people like that, JD always loved Eddie Adcock.
Me too. Me too.
He was very, very innovative with what he did and stuff. But, it's always good to talk to you, Alan. And like I said,
It's great talking to you, Phil.
You too, buddy. I always think about you, especially come May and stuff, because I'm always looking forward to going over, and I always wonder if you're going to be over and stuff, in Germany. And
Sure.
it seems like that's always the best place to catch up with people because we have time off a little bit there. And
Sure.
and I know me and you become friends through Germany and some other people that I just that I didn't know and now are just good buddies. But it's fun doing those camps too. I mean, I've never been a good teacher at all, but I'm good at socializing and running around and talking too much at times. But I've got good memories of me and you getting to pick together and all that stuff, and I hope we get to do that again.
I hope so too, Phil.
Well,
I hope
buddy,
so too.
I'm going to let you go, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks for joining us here tonight, buddy, okay?
All righty. Thanks for thinking of me, Phil. I sure appreciate it.
Definitely. You have a good one, brother. See
You
ya.
too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. That was Alan Munde. Glad to have him on tonight. Great player, great history of playing the banjo and everything he's done. And next week I mentioned I'll have Alan Bobby as my guest, front man with Grasstown, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I want to thank everyone that's tuned in tonight. We had a pretty good crowd in. And I hope we can keep doing this. I'm wanting to get this thing to Zoom. I just need to really figure out that it's not going to be that hard to just do it. So anyway, excuse me, just a second. Oh Lordy, I will sign out. Keep us all in your prayer. Keep Ben Brand in your prayer. Thank you so much. God bless. Good night.